What do you think is happening right now with Mike McCarthy and Jerry as we look at the deadline a week away? We know the Bears are interested in talking to McCarthy, but what do you think is going to be the end of this story in Dallas?
I think that Jerry, my buddy Jerry Jones, he's a man that I respect and I have a lot of love for, genuinely. But I think that he's lost a step. I've watched him give quotes this year, quotes that made no sense. I've watched him say things that were clearly ill-advised. I've watched him explain some of the business decisions that he has made that make no sense. It's just not good business sense. And I've watched him on several occasions get in his own way. Derrick Henry was not what we needed. He would not have been here what he is in Baltimore. You have an opportunity to get a guy that is a monster, a man amongst boys, playing for Tennessee all of these years, who works out in Dallas and lives in Dallas in the offseason, who made it very, very clear he wanted to be a Dallas Cowboy. And on top of all of that is available for $6 to $8 million. And you don't get him? Working right there in your backyard. You wait to sign Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. And by waiting, it costs additional $20 to $25 million on your cap, because had you signed them at an earlier date, it would have been less, would have gave you ample amount of money, not just to get Derrick Henry, but possibly Saquon Barkley. You didn't do it. And you're trying to explain away that it didn't work for you, that you didn't need it when your running backs was Rico Dowdle and Ezekiel Elliott. See, these are the kind of things that make no sense. And then you come with Mike McCarthy, and here you are saying, let him talk. We want people that want to be here. Well, he's your head coach. And if you don't want him to go anywhere, you could re-sign him or give him an extension right now. Instead, you're playing games and you're letting him go out on the open market to see. Why would you treat your head coach like that? I'm not saying keep McCarthy. I'm not saying let him go. I'm saying whatever decision you make it. Just make it. What's the hesitation for? You know, why? Because it's going to give you extra days in the headlines? I mean, it makes no sense. And so you look at all of these things from a Jerry Jones, and you're saying, what the hell is going on here? In the end, I think that Mike McCarthy will likely end up staying. I certainly don't think he's the right coach for the Chicago Bears. Dak Prescott has been hurt 31% of the time over the last 4 or 5 years or so that Mike McCarthy has been the head coach. In Dak Prescott's first 4 years in the league, when he made a grand total of $4.9 million, he didn't miss a single game. Ever since McCarthy arrived, and he's gotten about $243.7 million over this span, Dak Prescott has missed 26 games. He's missed 31% of his games. And still in all, you had back-to-back 12-5 seasons prior to this year, which is the worst of Mike McCarthy's career, finishing 7-10, but Dak Prescott got hurt nearly halfway through the season. So I'm looking at all of those things and I'm saying, I don't think he deserves to be fired, but I do think that the Cowboys should have hired Bill Belichick. Mm-hmm. And since they passed up on that opportunity, you might as well keep him. And if you might as well keep him, what's the procrastination about? Just go ahead and keep him.
What would you do if you were the GM down there, if you were sitting next to Jerry?
I'd tell him to retain Mike McCarthy. I'd tell him to retain him. I said, look, who's better out there? Who's better out there? Unless you feel like you need a young, fresher, vibrant mind. But here's the problem. Offense hasn't been your problem. Kellen Moore was there. You had the second-ranked offense. You let him walk away to the Chargers before he ended up as being offensive coordinator in Philadelphia. Mike McCarthy's here. Quinn was your defensive coordinator. You had an opportunity to have him as your head coach. You could have got rid of McCarthy. You kept McCarthy. You let Quinn go to Washington, and he's got the Commanders in the playoffs, but you're home. Kellen Moore's got the Eagles offense, clicking, and they're in the postseason as the number 2 seed in the NFC. So you just look at some of the decisions that Jerry Jones has made, and it clearly hasn't been his finest year as the president and the GM and the owner for the Dallas Cowboys. There's no denying that.
You have fun trolling. God knows our son Cooper loves your videos more than anything in the world, having fun with that. But but you can hear in your voice that there's concern as to where this team is going. And you know, it's funny because you being a guy from New York and with your influence in Philadelphia, we know where your love is in lost.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
it just seems to me that someone needs to step in there and I don't know who it is, whether it's Steven, whether it's a different member of the family, what have you, but to try to explain, like Amy was saying as we started this podcast, people are questioning, does he really want to win? Yes, he does. The guy wants to win. I just think that
there's no question about it. I worked with Jerry and Charlotte and Jerry Jr. and Steven, and throughout my years in the league when we were there together, they want to win. No one should question that.
Well, I agree with you. They want to win. But you're damn right everybody should question it. Because the results, you haven't won a Super Bowl championship in 29 years. And there have been several times when you've had a roster to compete for a Super Bowl championship. You haven't even been to an NFC championship game in 29 years.
Yep.
And you have an owner who is also the president, who is also the GM, and I understand he's Jerry Jones, and I understand that's your daddy. Y'all don't have any influence? None? You can't have a conversation with him like, Dad, what are you doing? Dad, I don't think it was wise for you to say that. Dad, could you let somebody else speak in front of that camera instead of you? Take a week off. Let's think about what we're doing here. Come on, Dad. I love you. Dad, what can we do? But it almost seems like the kids are more concerned about themselves and their own individual welfare than that of their papa.
Check out new episodes of What the Football with Suzy Shuster and Amy Trask every Tuesday. Watch us on the Rich Eisen Show YouTube page or follow and listen wherever you get your podcasts.